Good afternoon. We are the Therapy Equality Task Force. We're here as individuals and other sister organizations that are here expressing grave concerns about a new bill which is being attempted to be passed, Bill number 2307. Basically, it's referred to as the Reorientation Therapy Ban Bill for minors. We're here because we're telling another side of the story that is yet to be told. There are those in this state and all over the country and indeed all over the world who deal with same-sex attraction whose attractions do not represent their authentic selves, whose homosexual attractions have arisen because of deep trauma and unfortunate events in their lives, unfulfilled needs and such, that have resulted in the sexualization of those things and experiences in their lives. And this bill is here to stop any kind of therapy whatsoever to reduce or eliminate homosexual feelings, even in the case, egregiously so, of children who have experienced homosexual feelings as a result of other things, like sexual abuse from pedophiles. That was my own story that I might explain about later. But this bill, 2307, will indeed, we believe, harm children. And ironically, this bill, in trying to protect the rights of wonderful gay children, who we are very interested in preserving their rights as well. But to do that, this bill will harm, definitely, another group of children who deserve to have a voice. And so that's why we are here today. And I'm going to introduce several individuals who will speak their own stories and why they are here as individuals as well. And I'd like to welcome to the podium Ann Paulk.
Thank you, David. I am deeply concerned about this bill because it seeks to prevent professional services for the purpose of changing one's personal sexual orientation or gender identity, or reduce or deal with otherwise than embracing romantic attractions towards someone of the same gender. It only allows one direction of progress. For me in my life, that would not have been acceptable. I embraced homosexuality early on in my youth and later decided that that wasn't the direction to go in. And at this point, if this bill had passed at that point, I would not have been able to get professional care to go the direction that I desired to go. And I represent not just my own life, but a whole bunch of other people who have been perhaps molested in their earlier years, perhaps even by a same-sex predator, someone like a Jerry Sandusky, who then deal with unwanted same-sex attractions that draw them and connect them, unfortunately, in their great angst towards somebody who actually violated their physical space and their physical body. And that, I think, would be an egregious error on the part of the state to continue to harm these children who are seeking help. So shutting a door to help is, I think, a very tragic thing to do for the state. I think it's very important that options remain open, not that there's exclusive option either way. I think it's important that everybody has the right to choose whichever direction, even if they are under 18 years old. And I think that this bill would essentially harm those, particularly those individuals. And so I, as a executive director of Restored Hope Network, which is a coalition of 50-plus ministries, pastors, and counselors over the U.S., we stand against the bill HB 2307 on that basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. I'd next like you to listen to a very personal story of Robin Goodspeed. Robin.
Thank you. My name is Robin Goodspeed, and I am here as an individual. And I am also a board member of Voice of the Voiceless, which is a group of ex-homosexuals and ex-lesbians. And I am here as an ex-lesbian, ex-homosexual. And I am here to tell my story because my story is I was not born that way. I was molested, sexually abused by a pedophile babysitter at the age of 2. And that started some very difficult problems for me in my life. My family was not able to afford any kind of therapy, and by the age of 13, I had already developed serious anger, depression, and suicidal tendencies in addition to addictions. And at the age of 13, I had a nervous breakdown. My first lesbian experience was in college. And by that time, I was also dealing with a lot of suicidal ideology and suicide attempts. And I went to therapists, and every therapist that I went to back in the 1980s and 1990s told me that I was born that way, which was not the truth, because I continued to battle with suicide, depression, and addiction. I also found my way to 12-step groups where I attempted to help myself and found the same belief there. It wasn't until I was finally in 2007, after living a life as an out lesbian for 35 years, confronted with three things that happened in that year. I lost another lesbian relationship, I lost a very important job, and I had suffered the death of a parent. And because of that, suffering grief and a lot of guilt and regret, I finally, honestly examined my childhood. And I had to admit, finally, I was not born that way. And then I began to search for help. I was one of the people who did not receive the benefit of reparative therapy. And the reason that I'm here today is to help children in the state of Oregon and all over the country to be able to get the help if they've been victims, as I was, of horrible traumatic events. I was too young to be able to explain that to anyone, especially my family. No one knew what had happened to me. But a reparative therapist could help me uncover those feelings and heal. And I believe that all the children of Oregon and all over the country deserve that choice. They and their families deserve the choice to heal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin. Next speaker is a professional, Jason Graves. Jason?
Thank you. Well, I'm here representing myself and my story and my practice, Healing for the Soul, and also my clients. And I'm here to say that, as a person who's dealt with same-sex attraction his whole life and who didn't want to live that way, therapy as a teenager was really helpful for me to be able to overcome those struggles and be able to live in accordance with my own personal values. And nobody forced me. Nobody ever told me I had to. Nobody ever even offered. It was something I had to initiate myself and choose. I was never shamed. I was never tortured. I was never told I was a sinner. I was never exposed to anything like shock therapy or any of these other things that are often associated with this in a misconceived sort of way. Today, I'm very thankful to be married to a woman and to be able to have 2 kids together, and they are the light and the joy of my life. And I'm grateful for the therapy that helped me to connect my inner self with the ability to connect with that on the outside. As a psychotherapist, as somebody who helps people with their own goals around unwanted same-sex attractions, it's a joy and a pleasure to be able to help people that come to me with the idea that, hey, there's something that I'm not satisfied with in my life that I'd like to change. And I want to support the right of therapists to be able to offer what they deem in their professional experience as suitable help for people. Even if that means going in a direction that's different from what society tells them. Everybody has the right to self-determination, clients in therapy and therapists alike. So I think it's important to remember that this is at the end of the day about protecting choice and freedom, and that when it comes to the concern of preventing harm, it's a valid concern, but in our profession we have ethical guidelines that prevent the kind of harm that could happen. And if we need a bill that needs to go after therapists who don't respect ethical guidelines on top of the trade associations and their rules and their governance, then I say let's do it. But when it comes to protecting the right to pursue sexual orientation change related therapies, it's important that we protect that for those who want that, because this is the land of the free. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. To sum up, a little bit about, again, about why we're here and maybe some of my own personal story. My story is similar as well. I know that I was not born homosexual. I was a victim of a pedophile at 5 years of age. Maybe not many people know what that feels like, but I assure you, it damages through shame a sense of whole masculinity. And to make a very long story short, when I went through an authentic reparative therapist, my authentic self arose, depression went down, anxiety went down, and one of the foundational principles of all these therapies is to remove any and all shame for having homosexual feelings, in spite of what one might hear on the internet and in the general media. Authentic therapy for these issues really works. In our opinion, the media, newspapers, what have you, have all not given us a voice. But I want to assure you, as all of us here are today, that there are thousands of covered over voices that are now beginning to speak, and we are yet just a few of them. That's why our organizations are growing fast and we're becoming very active, because we have pain as well. We have pain. And yet we've had therapy that has truly transformed our lives and represents, unlike you hear in the media, the rise of the authentic heterosexual self. And it's a wonderful process. In all the aspects of harm that are touted in testimonies and in the media, you hear it all over the place. I want to assure you, as a licensed psychotherapist myself in 2 states in this country, nothing that they say reparative therapy is, or reorientation therapies, it's not therapy. I don't know exactly where these stories are coming from, but that's not what we do. We love all children. Reorientation therapies is about the rise of the authentic self, and it's about compassion. And we hope that the media from now on, and especially those senators in Oregon who are considering Bill 2307, will consider the other side of the story that they have not evidently heard yet. And that's why we're here. We want to thank you. That does it for the press conference, and we're open to questions, Q&A, if you have them.
What do you have to say with the American Psychological Association, American Psychiatric Association, who've been on the record that attempting to change someone's orientation is unethical and somewhat fraudulent, that it can't be done?
That's actually a misquote, but I appreciate your candor. Thank you for that. It's a great question. The latest research, according to the most respected psychological association in the world, the American Psychological Association, we commonly call the APA, uses its 2009 task force report. And in the conclusions of this same task force report on pages 82 and 83, it indicates there is no proof of harm. So where's the harm coming from? Maybe it's coming from unlicensed people, quackery, okay, fine, but why create a bill that penalizes and causes licensed therapists who do valid therapy to lose their license for something that really works? Also, earlier in that same report, it specifically says, evidently, some people, they call it SOCE, sexual orientation change efforts, so I'll use that term. They state specifically, evidently, SOCE brings some people benefit. Except you never hear that in the media. That's another reason why we're here. We're glad you're here today, so we can answer these questions. Anything else? Going, gone. We want to thank you again for having us here. If you have any questions, you've got your press kits there, and we can answer any questions, be there for you in any way that we possibly can to give you the good information that we have. Thank you.